Hello once again, everyone. This is MHJ Makes, and I am back with more of my self-insert action superhero Benton ripoff novel that I wrote while I was in high school. I asked in the previous part if you guys would be interested in me continuing this, and the resounding answer was actually nothing, because that video actually didn't do very well at all. But against everything that we have been taught about YouTube SEO and everything, I'm just going to continue to do this anyway, because, well, it's fun, and although I want my channel to grow, I'm not really all that interested in becoming a quote-unquote YouTuber anyway. Like, I'm just using this as a platform to tell my stories, right? So, this is the second part of my live-action, semi-dramatic reading of my high school novel, so I'm not going to bother explaining what I did or what this is all about. I'm going to assume that everyone is up to date, and if you aren't, I'm going to have a card in the top corner so that you guys can click on the previous part. And without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and jump straight into it. Looks like I'm going to have to save him. I selected my speed power and started running. At first, I couldn't see the limousine, but it was easy to find. The limo eventually turned into a dark alley. It parked the car. The door popped open. Mr. Sylvester was shoved out of the car. He was tied up. The robber grabbed him and dragged him into a building. I switched into my assassin power and went inside the building. The pursuit felt just like a video game. There was no originality in the hideout. It was an old, unfinished building with a small table in the middle and a few boxes. The robber was at one side and Mr. Sylvester was at the other. "Where's the money?" the robber asked. "What money? I don't owe you anything." "Wrong. You do owe me money. Your parents made a deal a long time ago. They were loaned some money to pay off a debt. After they died, we were going to charge you. However, we weren't expecting you to be so young. Well, now you're old enough to pay it off." "No, that debt was my parents', not mine." The robber punched Mrs. Sylvester in the face. "We don't care if it was yours or not. All we want is the money. Look, I don't dislike you at all. I hate you. If you weren't so valuable, you would be dead. You have two options here. Give me the money and then die quickly, or die in pains and sorrows. I have two people that can inherit the fortune. I don't care what you do to me. I'd rather die with my dignity." The robber pointed the gun at Mrs. Sylvester. I got a good look at it. It was a 9-round Mark 19 Desert Eagle. Judging by the barrel size, I'd say it was a .357 Magnum. The robber wasn't bluffing either. "All right, old man. You're wearing out my patience. If you don't give me the Do you get your kicks picking on rich people?" I asked. "You're the guy from before. How'd you find me?" "You left a white limo in the middle of an alley without covering it. It was an easy find." The robber started firing at me. I dashed towards him and punched him in the face. He punched me in the stomach and pushed me to the ground. He was about to stomp on my face, but I caught his foot. I knocked him down and started pounding him on the ground. He shook me off and smacked me with the end of his gun. He tried to do it again, but I caught it and broke his arm. The man screamed in pain. I kicked him in the face. I caught him by the shoulders and started kneeing him in the stomach. He used his free arm to smack me in the face. He tried to shoot me, but I dodged it. I kicked the gun out of his hand. He pulled a knife out of his pocket and started stabbing at me. I kicked him into some boxes. He opened one up and pulled out a Molotov cocktail. He lit the top and threw it at me. I caught it in my hand and threw it back. I missed, and it blew up right behind him. Some of the fire caught on his clothes. He ran away as the fire started igniting some more cocktails. He slipped and fell to the ground. I quickly jumped on him and pinned him. "You want more?" "No. Please, let me go." I did such and he ran away. I helped Mr. Sylvester up. I carried him to a cab and took him to his mansion. After he reached the mansion, he thanked me for saving his life. "You saved my life. Is there anything I can do for you?" "We could negotiate a price for the costumes." "Don't worry about paying. I'll do it for free. After all, a life is worth more than $500,000. "Really?" "Yes, free of charge. I owe it to you. Just give me the designs and I'll have them ready in a couple of weeks. Count your lucky stars." "Thanks. Lastly, how will I be able to contact you?" "Just leave the costumes outside and I'll pick them up. You don't need to contact me." "Pleasure doing business with you." "Likewise." I was so anxious to get my costumes. I checked by every day after school to see if Mr. Sylvester was finished, and day after day I would come by to be disappointed. I was beginning to wonder if he was even going to make the costumes. That was until I saw 2 boxes in front of his house. I ran up to them. They were indeed the costumes. On the top of the boxes were notes made out to the organization. I quickly grabbed the boxes and ran to my house. Yes, my costumes are here. I brought the boxes in my room. I then unpacked them. One box had my equipment, which were my non-metal twin swords for my assassin costume. I had my swords made out of a metal-like stone that could let me pass through metal detectors without setting off an alarm, yet still be sharp enough to make a kill. And had a coating on it that made it invisible to x-rays. I also had a water necklace, a giant ring filled with water that allows me to breathe while outside on land, and various pairs of goggles. The other box was filled with my costumes. Each were very unique and fit my exact descriptions. I hid the boxes in my closet. Until I get enough money for my own superhero lair, my closet was going to be my bat cave. After that, I checked the news. JR was reporting a crime scene. Today, he was dressed in a black suit with a bow tie. He is reporting in front of a beat-up apartment complex. There were broken cars and windows. He seemed to have an annoyed look when he was reporting. Hi, I'm JR from Channel 9 News. I'm here at the Bronx apartment area. I am just inches away from the crime scene of a murderous investigation. While going to drop off some mail, one of the neighbors noticed 2 bodies. He quickly alerted the police. With proper identification, police have confirmed that the 2 bodies were of Rachel Cox and her husband Bill. The 2 bodies were found next to a message written in their own blood. The message stated, "That's 2 more bodies to add to my collection." Police also confirmed that the murders were committed by the notorious serial killer Jason Ramirez, also known as the Red Messenger. That's all the information the police will tell us for now. I'll be back when I receive more information. Until then, I'm JR from Channel 9 News. Wow, that's crazy. I better go investigate. I got up, but quickly sat down after hearing footsteps. Crap, I have to hide these boxes. I hid the boxes in my room. I then covered them up so that nobody would notice them. I then ran downstairs to greet my family. Hello, I said. Hi, Em said. My sister was wearing a striped sweater and some jeans. My mom was wearing her military camouflage outfit. Her dad was wearing a blue dress shirt and a blue tie. How was your day? Good, they said simultaneously. Later we had dinner. At around 9:30, everybody went to sleep. Now's my chance. I put on my speed costume. It was an all-red costume with black gloves and shoes. It also had an attached mask with built-in air goggles so that I could run smoothly without having wind flowing in my eyes. After I put on my costume, I selected my speed power. I started running to the crime scene. When I got to the crime scene, I saw a shadowy figure walk in. I decided to slowly sneak behind it. It walked around the crime scene, probably looking for the bodies. It started cussing. "Freeze!" I yelled. The man spoke in a dark, shadowy voice. "Is this some kind of a joke? This isn't Halloween, kid. Go home." "Not till I know you're behind Then my sentence was interrupted by the clicking sound of a gun. Crap. I dashed towards him. He then fired the gun at me. I was easily able to dodge the bullet. I then tackled him and started doing a few combos on him. The man knocked me off of him and smashed my head into the ground. I pushed him off me. I then kicked him in the side with all my strength. The kick stunned him for a second. He shook it off and charged at me. I dodged him by jumping over him. I kicked him in the back. He tripped me. He picked up his gun and cocked it. I jumped in the air and did a dash attack. He tried to shoot at me, but I caught his hand. He tried to punch me with the other, but I caught that one as well. I kneed him in the stomach and punched him in the face. I then took the gun out of his hand and threw it as far away as possible. He kicked me in the side. It felt like a rib cracked. I ignored it and drop kicked him. I then smashed his head on the ground. He was knocked out. I knew it wasn't going to be very long before he wakes up again. I switched to my strength power and crossed his arms and legs in a bow-tie position. The sound of the disgusting cracks from his bones made me feel like puking, but that was the only way for me to keep him down. I then ran home. Although it was hard to concentrate on my directions with the massive migraine I had, I got home and got ready for bed. I checked the clock before I went to sleep. It was 12 o'clock in the morning. The downsides of being a superhero. Typical. The next morning was a pain. Immediately after I woke up, I ran down the stairs for some aspirin. When I saw myself in the mirror, I saw a jet black bruise across my forehead. Ouch, I really took a hit. It almost looked like a frostbite. I really should get it checked out. The rest of the day was even more of a pain. I had to explain to my mother how I didn't know how I got the bruise. After that, I had to go through a series of CAT scans and x-rays. To make it even worse, I had to walk around with a cast on my head. The only good thing that happened today was finding out that I had captured Jason Ramirez, and he was in custody. It made me laugh to see JR's expression when he had to explain that Jason Ramirez's arms and legs were in a bow-tie position. He was put in a Roland high-security prison where he is going to be treated by Dr. John Von Young. for psychiatric relief. If injuries like this are going to happen often, then I'm going to hate being a superhero. So anyway, that's the end of this chapter. Before we get to the next one, I just wanted to do a couple like meta, little like behind the scenes commentary here. So actually, like originally, like this whole, excuse me, I'm actually like recording this while like, while my apartment complex is like making, is like mowing the lawn and stuff. So like there's going to be some like random cuts here and there. You won't notice them, but like if you pay attention to the bottom right corner of the screen, you might see like the time randomly skip ahead. That's why. But anyway, a couple like meta things to talk about was that, that's what I was going to say, is that this whole sequence that I had here where I saved Sylvester, that actually wasn't there originally. Like, originally, Sylvester was actually just going to just give me the costumes for free, because, like, I don't know, I just pictured him being kind of, like, eccentric or something, I guess. But my friends were reading it, and one of them was like, yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You have to give him a reason. So that's where the whole, like, saving thing came from. And it's actually, like, really interesting. Where I mentioned here that, like, his parents owed him a lot of money or something. I think that's actually, like, a pretty, like, for high school me, I'm actually kind of impressed by that. I think that's actually, like, a pretty, like, interesting, what do you call it? Like, motivation? I obviously didn't really flesh out that very much, but, like, you know, he's this heir to this, like, mansion. His parents that, like, his grandparents founded, and, like, for some reason, they still needed to owe money. That's actually really interesting. I don't know. I wish I had talked about that a bit more. If I were to do that again, I probably would. Also, I love there's no originality in the hideout. It's an old, unfinished building with a small table in the middle and a few boxes. It's a very typical setting. I still use this. In fact, actually, the most recent chapter of the Nobunaga universe used something very similar. I don't know, but I don't know why I like using like these empty warehouse places with like crates and stuff. But like, I don't know. It makes for it's very stereotypical, but it makes for some like very interesting stuff. There's the Mark 19 Desert Eagle here. So this is like peak high school me right here. If you don't know what a Desert Eagle is, basically imagine like a 50 caliber gun. Like this is like anti-aircraft essentially, in pistol form. And that is what this is. It is an absolutely overkill. There is no reason you need a gun that powerful for anything. You can watch videos of people using them. They can shoot through concrete. You don't need it. You don't need it. But, you know, Desert Eagle, like, this is, like, peak 2010s teenage, like, energy. It says here that it was a 357 Magnum. So, like, I do, before I do these recordings, I do, like, a quick skim through of these, because, as I mentioned in the previous, part, how do I put it? This was so much of a self-insert that I used, like, my actual name, and I used, like, real locations that I used to live in and stuff. So I always have to make sure, just to preserve the identity of myself and people that I knew, I have to, like, read through this just to make sure that, you know, there's nothing in here that's, like, too revealing. So while I was skimming this, I looked at this, and I decided to look this up. This model of Desert Eagle is not capable of firing this, at least not in its standard form. I saw that it has like 50 AE and it could be like 44 mag, but like 357, no. I obviously didn't know what I was talking about. I still don't really know what I'm talking about when it comes to guns, but I mean, I probably would have done a bit more research had I, you know, done this as an adult. I guess one last thing I can comment on here is the red costume with black gloves and shoes. Like, that's very, very obviously an Incredibles ripoff. I'm not gonna hide that. It is what it is. We're just gonna move on to the next chapter. So anyway, chapter 3, Becoming Famous. The next couple of days were horrible. I couldn't save anyone because my parents had me on lockdown. There was nothing I could besides watch TV. I also couldn't move too much or else my migraine would come back. It was a pain. I couldn't practice using my powers or test out any costumes. To make it even worse, I had a lot of makeup work to do. After the third day, my peruke faded from a jet black to a dull purple. Well, at least I know that I'll be able to fight crime again. The next day, we went to an art museum. I packed a few essential things like pencils, papers, my assassin costume, and my twin blades. The museum was pretty big. It was made into a circular shape. It kind of reminded me of the Roman Colosseum without all the seats. These were a total of 3 floors. The top and the first floor had all the art. The bottom floor was for storage. The museum had red and black checkered tiles. There were several marble columns. The railings of the floor were made out of a gold-plated metal. The ceiling of the museum was a copy of the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. At the entrance of the museum, there was a giant photograph of the Roman Colosseum. There was a message engraved on it. It said, "Welcome to the Museum of World Art." Whatever that means. We looked at all the various forms of art from the Renaissance and the Middle Ages. Though the day was going by smoothly, I had kept my guard up in case something happened. I was surprised that nothing had happened. Suddenly, "Everybody freeze! Drop on the ground now!" A thug was dressed in a black spandex suit. He was wearing a black ski mask and red goggles. He had black leather gloves and black boots. He was carrying a pump-action shotgun. It was brown with a black barrel. Judging by the barrel size, it looked like he was using a 10-gauge. He was followed by several other men in the same outfit. Their weapons varied. I knew this was too good to be true. I hid outside the thief's view. I then changed into my costume. The costume was a black robe with a gray lining. The hood created a shadow in front of my face. All you could see was my chin. I also had black leather gloves so that I wouldn't leave any fingerprints, brown leather shoes made specifically for jobs like this, and 2 straps to hold my swords on my back. I slowly walked towards the guy, carefully making sure he couldn't hear my footsteps. Once I got close enough, I put one hand over his mouth and the other on his forehead. I then snapped his neck. Carefully making sure that no villain would spot me, I went inside the security room. I pulled out one of my swords in case one of the robbers was inside the room. I put my hand on the door, then quickly slammed it open. I then rolled inside. Nobody was in there. Wow, I can do all this? I checked all the security cameras to see how many robbers were in the building. Unfortunately, all the cameras were down. Of course, it always has to be the hard way, doesn't it? I then walked out. I climbed up on one of the columns. I had a bird's eye view of the building. I counted all the guys there. There were a total of 9 guys in the museum. There were 5 on the first floor and 4 on the top floor. The biggest one was carrying a sledgehammer, as well as a shotgun on his back. The others' weapons varied. They ranged from assault rifles to machetes to even swords. However, all of them had a 9mm Jericho 941F pistol as a backup weapon. I was about to spring down there when I heard what sounded like cars. I looked down at the entrance. There were a couple of members of the SWAT team entering in. They were completely loaded with weapons. They had semi-automatic shotguns, submachine guns, shotguns again, grenades, pistols, and even riot shields. There were a total of 8 SWAT members, and I figured the government thought that the group was enough to take care of the robbers. Oh, come on! It was hard enough dealing with these guys alone. Now to avoid being spotted by the police? "We are the SWAT team. We are ordered to bring you in dead or alive. You have a minute to surrender or we will take you down with lethal force," yelled one of the members. A bullet flew across the room, hitting an officer's riot shield. The SWAT team rolled into a semicircle formation. They put the riot shields in front of them and started firing at the robbers. I sprang down from the column, landing with perfect balance. I snuck up to one of the robbers and stabbed him through the heart. I then dropped him on the ground and carved my signature smiley face on his face. I snuck away, avoiding any other contact. A couple guys spotted the guy I took down. I could see the fear on their faces. It made me laugh. I saw the biggest member of the robbers. He used one of the hostages as a shield. He then got close enough to the team and smashed the SWAT member's face into the ground. He was quickly gunned down after that. I hid in the dark near another robber. I pulled him in the dark. I then slit his throat. The others too were hiding behind cover. There was no way that I'd be able to pull an assassination move on them without being spotted by either side. I decided to attack the people upstairs. I slowly walked upstairs, carefully making sure that I didn't make any sound with my footsteps. One of the robbers was running downstairs. I quickly hid. When he got close to me, I tripped him and stabbed him in the back. His lifeless body rolled down the stairs. When I got upstairs, I was greeted by the other 3 robbers. One had a machete, one had an MP5 submachine gun, and one was carrying an assault rifle. The one with the machete jumped up in front of me and slashed at me. I blocked it with one of my swords. I put out the other sword. He stabbed at me, but I blocked it with one sword. I tried to slit his throat with the other sword, but he punched me in the stomach. It knocked me off guard, but I managed to get a good stance again. I stabbed at him. He dodged the sword. I kicked the robber in the stomach. I then stabbed him in his right arm. I stabbed him in his head. The other 2 were in shock. They must have found it surprising that I had killed one of their comrades. They shook it off and started shooting at me. I jumped on one and stabbed him in the neck. I picked him up and used him as a body shield. I stabbed the other guy in his head. I felt relieved. I made my first save with no civilian casualties. After the other 2 robbers were gunned down, the SWAT team moved up to my position. One caught me and put me in headlock. What the hell? I'm on your side. You think I'm stupid? Now drop your weapon before I shoot you. Notice that I'm not wearing the same clothes as the others. Also note that the robbers on this floor are dead. I'm not dropping my weapons. I have people to save, so if you'll excuse me. Oh no you don't. Oh no you don't. The cop tightened his grip. I broke free of him and kicked him in the face. He tried to shoot me with his pistol, but I grabbed him by his vest. Let me put it this way. If I was the other guys, you'd be dead right now. I dropped the cop and went to go change back into my normal clothes. One of the cops heard the gunshots and started running over to my location. I dashed down the stairs and went to go get my bag. Shortly after that, JR and his camera crew came up to me. He was wearing a blue dress shirt and black slacks. He was followed by a cameraman and a boom operator. Hello, sir. I'm JR from Channel 9 News. Could you explain what happened? Some robbers came in and I stopped them. Why didn't you just leave it to the police? I didn't have time to wait on them. They were people that needed to be saved. So you're a superhero, eh? Why? He looked like he wanted to laugh when he heard that. Me and the other... Wait, so there's more? Yes, there are 14 of us, in fact. 14? Why? Each of us specialize in a different thing. Now I must get going, sir. Wait, what are we supposed to call you? Call me? Dark Assassin. I picked up my stuff and changed into the bathroom. The interview became an instant hit overnight. Video was uploaded on the internet and got millions of views in just one day. Hundreds of websites were created just for the interview. Dark Assassin became an idol. A lot of teenagers liked him for his seriousness and guts to put on the costume and put his life on the line. On the other hand, most people aged 45 and older thought I should get a real life and that I should leave the vigilante business to the professionals. I didn't care too much for their opinions. Once people get to that age, they stop caring about that kind of stuff. Civilians were the only people that saw my interview. It got a lot of negative criticism for the police and the military. They said my act was idiotic and very juvenile. The military said that if they caught me doing police business, they would lock me up in a high-security prison. I didn't really care. I mean, it's not like they could capture me anyway. Everybody was talking about Dark Assassin at school. I thought it was funny how hypocritical everybody was. I wonder how they would treat me if they knew I was Dark Assassin, or any of the other superheroes for that matter. During the morning announcements, Principal Washington stated that we should not use Dark Assassin as a role model, and that he would most likely be dead in the next couple of days. The thought of that made me shiver. Out of all the things that went weird during the day, getting called to the principal's office was the weirdest. I went to his office. Principal Washington must have noticed my intimidation. He was a very tall man. He looked like he was in his 60s. He had thick brown framed glasses. He wore a brown polo shirt with the school symbol on it and black slacks. He had a thick gray mustache. He was bald at the top with white hair on the sides. Son, you're not in trouble. I gave a sigh of relief. If I'm not in trouble, what exactly am I here for? Excuse me? The principal gave a gesture to a shadowy figure to come into my view. Son, I'd like to introduce you to Sergeant William Wright. Sergeant Wright was a tall man, most likely in his early 30s. He was clean-shaven and he was wearing a tan military camouflage outfit. He was bald. He had a long scar on his neck. He had tan boots. Principal Washington, I need to talk to MHJ Makes in private. Certainly. Principal Washington walked away. Sit down, MHJ Makes. What would you like to talk about, sir? MHJ Makes. We had reports that you were missing during the museum robbery. Where exactly were you? Isn't it illegal to interrogate me on an event without my parents' permission? I have rights, you know, I said. The military can make certain exceptions. Now, please answer my question. I was hiding in the bathroom. Son, do you realize how serious that was? Obviously, it's enough to get military attention, I mumbled. What was that? Nothing. Sir. You should have stayed with your chaperone. If someone had attacked you, it would be our fault. I live a stressful life already. I don't want to be yelled at by some ass. If one of those, if one of those guys had caught you in the bathroom, you could have been brutally, please, sir, I just ate. Sorry. The next time you do something as stupid as hiding without your chaperone's knowledge, you won't be hearing from me. Am I clear? Yes, sir. Good. Now go back to class. I couldn't have done better. Even if I say so myself, that sergeant shouldn't have been so easy to fool. After I came home from school, I checked the news. Nothing unusual was going on. It was weird. It stayed like that for 3 weeks. I was wondering if anything exciting was going to happen, until a building caught on fire. Finally, something exciting! I put on my speed costume and selected the power. Immediately, I dashed towards the building. I tried to walk in, but a police officer wouldn't let me in. Alright, kid, let the professionals handle this. I am perfectly capable of doing this. Kid, you're preventing me from helping save these guys. I don't want to have to worry about you with the other guys. Do you realize? Excuse me. I ran inside the building. Hello? Is there anybody in here? I yelled. There was no reply. I went upstairs. Help! Yelled a lady. Hold on, I'm coming to get you. I searched throughout the floor. I couldn't find her. I called for her again. Help me, please. I have a baby. I went up to the next floor. Like the previous floor, I couldn't find her. I went up to the next floor. It was blocked by a door that was too hot to touch. I kicked it open. I was greeted by a thick coat of smoke. I choked. And no, let's finish the paragraph. I tried my hardest to force air into my lungs. I couldn't breathe. I tried to crawl back downstairs, but I didn't want to let the lady and her child die. I couldn't tell if I was going backwards or forward. My vision was completely gone. I felt the fatigue in my muscles. My body wasn't able to give them the proper oxygen that they needed. I started feeling lightheaded. I was finally at a stage where I could barely move. Everything was getting darker and darker. I was going to end up like so many people that tried to do the same thing. I dragged my body. The pain was too much. I was about to give up when I felt a doorknob. It was very hot. With newfound energy, I got up and kicked the door open. I finally got a breath of air. I fell down for a second to let the oxygen restore to my body. I called for the lady again. And with that, I am going to call it here, because I guess I kind of just arbitrarily decided that I was just going to do one recording for every 11 pages, because that turns out to be about a half an hour, which I think is more than enough time for a video. And with 66 pages, apparently, I think that's perfect, right? Yeah, so a couple things that I want to note here. Okay, so this whole plot line with the sergeant, why is it a sergeant first of all? I would think at least a colonel or something. But I don't know. Sergeant pulling me aside to ask me a question. I think I could be wrong on this. Don't quote me, but I think past me believed that Sergeant Wright actually knew that I was dark assassin or whatever, and he was trying to test me to figure out who I was. I think that was what was going on, but I'm not entirely sure. It's been a little over a decade since I wrote this, so let's see, what else is there? A couple things. Oh, that's one thing I can talk about. So this whole sequence with the museum sequence, it actually used to be a lot more violent than what we have here. We go here to this part right here where I say, once I got close enough, I put one hand over his mouth and the other over his forehead, and then I snapped his neck. In the original version, it was either this one or the other one where I stabbed the guy in the heart. Later on, one of those two, what originally happened wasn't that I snapped his neck. It's that I actually gave him what can sometimes be called an Italian necktie or a Colombian necktie. I'm not going to bother explaining what that is because it's actually pretty gross. You can look that up on your own time. But, yeah, this actually was, very violent. The first time that I wrote this when I was 15. And the first time that I reread this was 3 years ago. So that was my first time reading it in 10 years. First time reading it in 10 years. And I was just blown away by just how violent it was. I don't know. My newer stories can get pretty violent too, but it's not quite as pointless as this. Okay, the whole Jericho 941F pistol, I'm not even going to comment on that. That's just teenage me pretending that they know more about guns than they actually do. And yes, much like how the Speed costume was a ripoff of The Incredibles, I'm going to go ahead and talk about this one. I mean, it's pretty obvious, twin blades. Hold on. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh yeah, twin blades, black robe with gray lining, hood creating a shadow in front of my face. All you can see is my chin. Okay, yes, we get it. This is Assassin's Creed. You don't need to point this out in the comments section. I know that like there was not a single original idea in my. Actually, to give myself credit, some of the things that did happen here, actually, I think were actually pretty interesting ideas. Had I had a bit more experience to actually expand upon them, they could have been like really, really cool. Really, really cool. Which is why, like, 3 years ago, when I when I read this, I was inspired to actually like try to like redo it again, make it a bit less self-inserty and a bit more like actually readable. I don't think I made it more than like 7 pages though. I might actually do a read through of that at some point. It's not going to be as funny because that's going to be like adult me actually trying to like write competently. Try to anyway. But yeah, I think that'll be it for now. Once again, let me know if you guys want me to continue. I'm probably going to do it regardless of what you say, because this is fun. I should probably, brand myself. I don't know. Anyway, so again, I'm MSJ Makes. I write a story. It's called the Nobunaga Universe. It takes place in a 1950s alternate universe diesel punk Japan. It's a superhero story just like this, but like less of a ripoff of Ben 10 and more of a ripoff of the Green Hornet. And yeah, the links are available in the description. And without further ado, I suppose I'll end things off here. So yeah, see ya.